Could you explain some of the difficulties you faced in providing postural care?
It can be difficult, the size of the classroom can be difficult, and using the appropriate seating for the children. When you need to move children around to meet their different learning needs, moving a piece of equipment from one side of the classroom to another can be difficult. Also, sometimes the heights of the furniture in the classroom aren't helpful for the children's particular seating. Transitions from room to room can be difficult. If you've got science in one room or PE in another room, trying to get the equipment down there can be difficult. And also trying to get the child to feel that they're actually part of a group, and working with other children that don't have the same postural needs can be a challenge.
Great, thanks. And are there things that made providing postural care easier?
I think planning how you're going to meet those needs, the postural needs, alongside how you're going to meet the child's other needs, their learning needs. So when I'm planning my timetable and my curriculum, if I think about those needs as well as the other needs and plan for how I'm going to make sure that maybe if they're in a standing frame, how I'm going to build that into their daily timetable, and thinking around how am I going to make sure that child works in a group as well as working on their own, and where is that furniture going to be put, where's the seating going to be put, and actually making it part of their weekly plan as well as their maths and their English and their swimming and their PE. So the seating is actually planned in, all the standing frames are planned into the timetable.
Oh, that's great. Now, is there some support that you found particularly useful?
I think obviously working with physios has been very useful, and the advice they've given has been very useful, particularly when we've done group training, when we've had the support assistants in the training with the teachers and the child. That's been quite helpful. And also when we've had team meetings about individual children, and we've been able to talk about how we can meet the needs of the whole child throughout the week, that's been useful, and especially when physios can be part of those meetings.
Oh, that's great. Oh, thanks. And are you able to talk a little bit about the effects of providing for the child's postural care needs on the daily school life? You know, what do you think, how the effects on their child and on their friendships and on the school staff, perhaps? So.
From a learning point of view, I think it's very important. I have a child who didn't have appropriate seating and her postural needs weren't being met, and she wasn't able to learn because she couldn't control her body, so she couldn't sit still enough to focus on what was going on. She was also quite at risk from injuring herself because the chair was constantly tipping over, so the support staff were merely just holding her still in her chair. Now she's got suitable seating. I've actually seen a huge amount of progress in her learning over the last term, so it is very important for that to meet their other needs, their academic needs.
Oh, great. And what about on their friends? Have you got any thoughts on that?
It is difficult when they are in a large piece of equipment to make them fit around a table with other children. We now have got tables that are of a height that the chairs and the furniture will fit, but also if we ask the physios, they will adjust the equipment so that it will fit and it'll be a better height.
Oh, that's great. And any comments from school staff about effects that they have other staff at all?
I think they're aware of the need for seating, particularly for feeding, to make sure they're safe when they're feeding, and I think they understand that some of the children need particular seating to help them with their learning. I think moving the seats around is an issue with other staff, and sometimes they don't always see the need for them to be on a particular chair, when it's easier just to put them on a regular chair.
Well, that's helpful, thank you. And so following on from that, is there information or knowledge that you'd find useful about providing postural care that would be useful to you and perhaps to your colleagues as well that you've had?
I think it would be useful when we have team meetings if the staff really understood the purpose of postural care, and also the effects of not having the correct postural care, what was going to happen to those children in the future. I think it's quite important to look long term to where our children are going to be, where they're going to be when they're 20, what are our aims for them when they're in their 20s, and if we haven't met their postural needs, teach them to read and write and do their maths might be unnecessary, because they won't be able to go out, they won't be able to hold their heads up, they won't be able to speak to people, they won't be able to feed themselves. So it's important to get that right first. Even if we don't see any purpose for it now, they seem to be sitting okay when they're 8 years old. If we don't get it right, then they're going to be really struggling when they're young adults.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. And on your mobile, what do you think then have been the effects on the pupil of receiving postural care in school?
Well, firstly, as I said before, it's assisting them with their learning. If they're not comfortable, if they're not able to concentrate on their learning rather than concentrate on sitting, then they're not going to make progress in other areas. And if they're uncomfortable or in pain, then they're not going to be learning, and they're not going to be happy, and they're not going to thrive. And long term, if they don't develop well physically, then they're going to have a lot of problems in later life and not be as independent as we'd like them to be.
Well, that's lovely, thanks. And so, what advice would you give to a teacher who is about to take on a pupil with additional postural care needs for the first time?
I think it would be good to meet as a whole team, TAs, teachers, physios and parents, and discuss the needs of the child and look at the equipment that you're going to need to meet their postural needs, and then try and find a way of building that into your timetable. So timetabling where that child's going to be, where that furniture needs to be, if they need to use a standing frame, where's the best time to use that. For example, we use standing frames for science and painting, and actually the children actually access those lessons better from in their standing frames because they're upright and they've got a bowl that they can work in, or they've got a flat surface to do their writing on. And if you build it into your timetable and work out the best times and the best ways of moving that equipment and moving the children, it just seems to be part of their learning and part of their week.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you very much indeed.